Hello, today we're going to be talking about emerging technologies in content areas. So, we're kind of combining two ideas one that's about what a discipline area or content area is and what our goals are behind a content area. And then we're going to add to that emerging technologies. So, these are the overall topics, and we're going to break it up. First, I'm going to talk about content areas and big ideas. And then in a second part, I'll talk more about emerging technologies and educational uses of them, because then we're going to start imagining what else we could do in our content areas with these emerging technologies. So, the genesis for this idea of trying to focus on what happens in a content area, what a discipline is, comes from this TPACK framework. So, if you remember, TPACK is a technological pedagogical content knowledge. And it says that the best type of technology use, or the type of knowing that you need to use technology effectively, has to do with combining the content with the pedagogy and the technology. And that's when you get the TPACK. Okay. So I want to step back. Our overall question today is, how can emerging technologies support learning the big ideas in a content area? And this fits in the TPACK diagram like this. Emerging technologies are technological knowledge. We're going to talk about some different emerging technologies and how they might be used in education, which is kind of the technological pedagogical knowledge. We're also going to talk about learning, which is just pedagogical knowledge, and how that works in a content area. So that'll be the content knowledge as well as the pedagogical content knowledge. Okay, and we're going to kind of do it backwards. So we're going to start with the learning and the big ideas in a content area. So first, I want you to think about your content area, and this can be some different ideas. You can just choose an area. So it can be something like math or science or biology, or interviewing skills. It can be something like 10th grade calculus or algebra or something, second grade math. It could even be all of second grade if you wanted to. But for now, just choose one to think about. And you might consider choosing the content area that your signature assignment is based in, because I think that'll help you think about this a little more to enrich your signature assignment. So in that content area, what do you want your students to be able to do, and what do you want them to remember in 10 years? Go ahead and respond to that question. So if you look at this chart, and this chart comes from a framework called Understanding by Design, and it's part of like a backwards design process. They talk about the whole curriculum, like let's just say it's history. All the little facts in the history are worth being familiar with, but you're probably not going to remember all the details in 10 years. You probably also have some things that are important to know and do. So things that I can do even if I don't remember all the specific facts, that might be here. And then I might have some enduring understanding. So I might have some enduring understanding about what caused the Civil War, or what were the dynamics behind what started World War II. I'm not a historian, but those might be some enduring understanding ideas that are going to help me in society. They're going to help me interpret the world around me. And so it's important that we keep in mind what we want our students to come away with long-term and enduring understanding. So you can ask questions like, what do experts in the discipline do, and how do they think? There might be certain patterns like cause and effect patterns, or in math, there's different like actual numerical patterns they think in. How do experts in the content area think? What's going to help students understand and interact in the world? What content do I use in my life, and how does it impact my life? And what do I want to actually go beyond the lesson? What do I want to go beyond just whatever test we're going to give them at the end of the semester? One example about this content do I use in my life, I was talking to a math teacher last summer, and we were trying to connect his mathematics content more closely to the world happening around us, which was COVID. And we talked about how important it is to understand statistical inferences and averages and such, because we were seeing that in the COVID statistics. So when you opened up a COVID statistic and you saw the case count and the per capita, having a basic understanding of how those numbers work was necessary to draw important conclusions about how prevalent COVID was. So I said, that's an idea that I use in my life all the time, is understanding that if we have more people and the same number of cases, the percentage of case or the number of cases per population goes down. So that's just a brief example of that idea of what do I actually use in my life. So we can plan a unit by starting with these goals and overarching competencies. Or what we usually do is we usually start from the curriculum or the really specific standards, which might be what's in the textbook or what's in the standards document. And there might be some standards that are good overarching ideas, but a lot of the time they're very specific. So it always helps to start with the big ideas, and then you have the specific standards that you use along the way to support the big ideas. So I was trying to explore resources that can help us understand this better. And I came across this New Zealand curriculum online, which I asked you all to review. And I found it really interesting to see how they broke down their curriculum. So overall, they had these key competencies, and these go across all subject areas: thinking, relating to others, language, symbols, text, managing yourself, participating, contributing. That went over all subject areas. But then you have something like, this is key concepts. It's secondary. In fact, it's secondary English. They had these key concepts of identity, communication, story, and meaning. So those were specific to English language arts at a secondary level. If you look at English overall, for each subject area, they list the what and why. So you say, what are we studying in English and why are we studying it? We want to use the language. Learning the language, through the language, and about the language. We want to understand, use, and create different types of texts: oral, written, and visual. And why do we do that? So we have the literacy we need to participate in society. And then they broke down and they had this learning area structure where they had two strands: making meanings of ideas and information and creating meaning. So that's reading things and understanding it, or it could be watching things and understanding, as well as writing your own things or creating your own videos, creating meaning yourself. So then it says that includes these knowledge, skills, and understandings related to your text purpose and your audience, the ideas in the language context, language features, and the structure and organization of texts. So these are the big ideas of the content area, the big ideas of the discipline. We might have a specific standard that fits under one or several of these. But if we keep our focus on the big ideas as well, it helps us to support long-lasting learning that students will remember in 10 years and they'll be able to use throughout their lives. Okay, so that's part one. Join me for part two in a moment.